The fog is lifting. Clarity is calling you forward. Welcome to Forward in Freedom. I'm Tanya Johnson. This is where awareness becomes power. Let's move forward in freedom.
Have you ever chosen peace and felt tension ripple through your relationships? Have you ever stepped into clarity and realized not everyone was cheering? I'm Tanya J, and this is Forward in Freedom, a space for people who are done living foggy, overextended, and disconnected from themselves. And you're ready to walk with clarity, courage, and peace. And this is your journey from fog to freedom. And today we're talking about something most people are unprepared for once they start healing. Once clarity arrives, once boundaries start forming, once your yes becomes intentional, once your spirit stops negotiating what it already knows. Relationships shift. Some deepen, some strain, some quietly fade away. And the question isn't, am I wrong for changing? The better question is, who is aligned with where God is taking me now? Let's talk about that. When you begin honoring your inner signals, when you pause before committing, and when you stop rescuing situations you didn't create, when you let silence replace over explaining, systems built around your old availability start to wobble. Before life began shifting, certain patterns had settled in. You answered quickly, you stayed flexible, you absorbed tension so others wouldn't have to. You kept conversations moving forward, even when something inside of you hesitated. You learned how to make yourself easy to work with, easy to lean on, easy to overlook. So when your pace slowed, when your answers became thoughtful, when your yes turned selective, it didn't go unnoticed. That shift doesn't pass quietly. It changes expectations. It unsettles routines. It exposes who was comfortable with the old version of you. Not because you became unreasonable, but because the rules of engagement changed. And when your life changes, systems built around your sacrifice start shaking. Now, here's where discernment becomes critical. Not everyone reacts the same way to your growth. Some relationships experience resistance, others move toward release. Let's define those because these words matter. Resistance often shows up as pressure to revert, jokes that minimize your growth, withdrawal when you hold limits, subtle punishment through silence, framing your clarity as betrayal, repeated testing of boundaries. And relief often sounds like this: genuine curiosity, slower adjustment without resentment, asking instead of assuming, honoring change even when it's inconvenient, staying emotionally present, respecting your pace. One resists your evolution, the other creates room for it. Pay attention to who pressures you to stay the same. Let me give you a picture. Imagine your life as a tree, healthy, rooted, growing upward and outward. But over time, some branches grow wild, heavy, crowding the sunlight, draining nutrients. And these branches look like endless explaining, saying yes under pressure, avoiding disappointment, carrying emotional labor, replaying conversations, collapsing afterward. Those branches once helped you to those branches those branches once helped you survive. They protected you, they kept peace, they maintained connection. But now they block new growth. When a tree is pruned, it doesn't shrink, it strengthens. Cutting back makes room for rest without apology, deliberate choices, calm nervous systems, honest conversations, peace at night, and discernment in the morning. That's not personality, that's practice. That's what happens when your habits finally match your healing. Your future isn't shaped by temperament, it's shaped by what you tolerate. There's been some seasons where I thought loyalty meant staying no matter what it cost me, where I thought maturity meant endurance, where I believed that love required constant access. But there are chapters where God gently and sometimes firmly invites you into a new way of living. Not louder, not harder, just truer, just truer. I've learned that seasons change for a reason. What sustained you once may not sustain you now. What made sense in survival doesn't always belong in wholeness. And in some cases, there were moments when growth required me to disappoint people I cared about. Moments when staying familiar would have cost me more than leaving patterns behind. I had to accept that being faithful to my own healing would not always feel harmonious. Sometimes it felt like choosing truth over approval, and that was uncomfortable. But clarity rarely arrives wrapped in applause. Sometimes obedience looks like distance. Here's what most people get wrong. They think discernment happens in dramatic moments. It usually doesn't. It shows up quietly, in patterns, in energy, in how your body responds after interactions. And whether peace increases or disappears, and whether you feel clearer or foggier, and whether you feel safe to grow or subtly pressured to shrink. Discernment is slow, it's gentle, it's honest, and faithful. Here's your freedom nugget for this week: seasonal discernment. I want you to ask yourself these 5 questions slowly, maybe even write them down. I want you to sit with them. And I would also ask you to pray through them. Am I staying out of fear or faithfulness? If nothing changed here, would I still feel whole? Does this relationship invite my growth or require my shrinking? When I imagine five, when I imagine 5 more years of this, does my body relax or tighten? Do I leave interactions with clarity or confusion? Sometimes your prayers for peace are answered by changing who has access to you. And before we talk about sharing this episode or what's coming next, I want to leave you with something steady for you to continue to think about. Sometimes clarity doesn't ask for sudden exits. Sometimes it simply invites honesty. You don't have to announce everything. You don't have to confront everyone. You don't have to rush. You just keep choosing truth, one boundary at a time, one season at a time, one brave decision at a time. Next week, we're naming something tender: why guilt shows up when you outgrow people. We'll talk about loyalty versus peace, old roles following you into the new seasons, spiritualized pressure, and how to release guilt without becoming hardened. If today's episode helped put language around something you've been sensing but couldn't quite name it, let that stay with you. Follow the podcast so these conversations meet you each week. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, someone navigating transition, pressure, or quiet grief, send this episode to them. Freedom often begins with the right words at the right time. And as you carry this forward, remember, clarity isn't rushed, it's rooted. I'm Tanya J, your host for Forward in Freedom, where we move from fog to freedom. And this is the work of walking free.